Okay, this is one of the things we tried not too long ago about solar energy. And we thought we could make power using concentrated solar, which meant you're going to take a bunch of mirrors and you're going to point them at a tower. I have some pictures here that you can see. The whole idea was if we concentrated all this solar energy on this one post that had, would absorb the solar energy, that we could produce a lot of power with it. Kind of, not exactly similar, but kind of like what a lot of you guys did, and of course I never did this, I would never do that. A magnifying glass concentrating solar power on an ant running across in front of you. Of course, you've never done that. Anyway, they use mirrors for this. They didn't use lenses, but and they would have, I don't know, 300, 1,300, whatever the heck, number of these mirrors placed out all around this tower, and they would shine the light on the tower. And there was two ways they did this. Some of it was there was water in there, and it would boil the water and it would run a turbine and produce power. And another one was where they would take and run salt up there, melt the salt would be melted by the heat, and it would be pumped into a turbine and it would boil water and it would produce power. The advantage there being they would have this gigantic tank full of melted salt so that when the sun went down they could still produce some power. Okay, it was all, I remember back in the 70s they were starting to do this and they had plenty of problems with this salt stuff. And they're still having problems with it. It's gotten better, but they still have problems with it. This whole thing was it was one of those things that you're sitting there thinking, boy, this would work great. And then when you go to do it, it don't work for sour apples. And that's what exactly happened there. There were billions put into these things. And they're finally, ripping them out. There's one over in California right next to Nevada that they're finally deciding that it won't work. I mean, the idea was a great one until they actually put it in process and found out what was wrong. Okay, I know what was wrong. I've been a mechanic forever. Let's see. Okay, let's take a bunch of mirrors and let's point them at this spot. And they have to track all day long. As the sun goes along like that, they have to track and reflect the light onto this one tower. One of the things mechanics have said for a long time is that if you have one component, you have one problem. If you have 10 components, you have 10 problems. If you have 1,000 components, you have 1,000 problems. Okay, each one of these little mirror setups, I think most of them are like 1,200 square feet or something. They have to be moved. There's sensors there and computer control, blah, blah, blah. And they have to move a gearing assembly in 2 dimensions, this way, that way. So this is always pointing at this tower. Okay, they're not all going to point at the tower. At any given time, you'll have at least 10% of those things that are broke. And they're pointing off the sky someplace. Here's a picture of that. You can take a look at that silly thing. There's going to be a certain percentage of them broke all the time. The gear motors are going to break. The sensors are going to get too hot. The sensors are going to fall off. I mean, there's all kinds of crazy crap, and the motors fail, transformers fail, so on. And it's immensely complicated to set up in the first place. So you get all these things and you're trying to get them to point to the right spot. And maybe you get them to work, and then you've got all this dumb piping. You've got to pipe this salt, if you're using salt, into all these different places. The salt's corrosive, it eats holes in the tank. You got to insulate the tank, and you got to insulate the tank from the salt, because the salt's going to eat through the tank. All these things, they make for an extremely complicated, kind of an engineer's nightmare. You know, given the time that they were done, 2000, 2010, something like that, they did seem like they made sense. They never did to me. When I first saw that, this is nuts, man. This is a nightmare of piping and all these controls to try to control these panels. Then you got to wash the panels all the time, because they're going to get dust on them and they're not going to work. And if you leave the dust on them, they're going to overheat and warp. And you're putting these things in the middle of the desert. We're going to get the water, so they're going to have to drill some kind of well that's going to give enough water that they can do all this stuff. And then, of course, it kills birds, and I guess it kills tortoises too. I'm not sure what that's all about. But this one that I was talking about, it's being shut down. It was costing like 13 cents to make a kilowatt, and that's their cost. There's no profit in that, and they really couldn't sell it, so they just shut the silly thing down. Probably what they'll do is they'll put PV panels out there, photovoltaics. Okay, understand here, in 2010, photovoltaics were far, far more expensive than they are now. The price of photovoltaics has dropped like a stone. Photovoltaics, to give you some sort of idea, it's cheaper than a window. If I was to take a window the size of this photovoltaic panel, which is, they're usually about 6 foot by 40 inches. If I was to take one of those things and just make a window that size, it would cost quite a bit more than the solar panel. So this stuff has dropped like a stone, and it makes photovoltaics much more viable. Now, what do you do with this whole system? Well, first of all, you scrap the whole mess. Yeah, there's not much else you can do but scrap it. But you've got all the dirt out there, and you know it's all ready to go, and that well, the well's there, and put photovoltaics on all of it. Now you say, well, photovoltaics, they get dirty too. I guess they do. I've had photovoltaics on my place for 5 years, and I've never washed them, and it's not made one iota of difference in the output. Maybe other people have different experiences, but that's my experience. The rain just kind of washes them off. Of course, if it's in the desert, maybe it don't rain that much, and maybe there's a little more maintenance on them. But if you figure, I put a photovoltaic panel up there. It puts out a voltage, and of course amperage too. And I hook it up to the electrical panel, and I run that power underground or something to a transformer that brings it up to the right voltage for the grid. That's about all I've got to do. I mean, it's DC and it has to be changed to AC, but that's very viable anymore, very commonly done, and works fine. In fact, you can put microinverters that are on the panels that'll put 240 volts AC directly out of the panels. So what they'll probably do is take that whole site and just put photovoltaics on it. Everything changes, guys. It starts out, we're gonna, oh yeah, this is gonna be great. But it doesn't always work that way. And when the technology changes, you gotta change with it and do the best you can. And this is the best. Photovoltaics for the foreseeable future are going to be it. If you need, if you wanted to make rotating panels that follow the sun, don't do it. That's inviting all this mechanical crap in there. I tried that once. It didn't work for sour apples. Just put more panels. You got 20 panels out there, and they're not getting enough north or west sun or something. Put some more panels on the west side, assuming you have room. This is a way to use these panels. Most of them are guaranteed for 25 years, and they'll probably last far longer than that. Anyway, that's my little spout out about these concentrated solar systems. That's it on this one.